else have any ideas? Jam? Is that what you're gonna make? You made those last year. Anybody else? So it's super fun to contribute. And if you already have produce from your garden that you want to share, you can bring that, or just, different stuff. It's a way to have community and have fun and eat a lot of stuff because everybody brings something. It's a really good time. So, any questions about the holiday party? Anything, any ideas, anything? Okay. Um, so what else? So we had a pretty successful plant sale. We want to thank everyone for who brought stuff, who volunteered, who bought plants, who contributed in any way to our plants, our fundraiser this year. We're so appreciative that we pulled it off another year. And it was super awesome. I just got back from California visiting my relatives. I got to see lots of orchards there that were not sustainable or organic. It was interesting because it was so dry and the dust was going over the roads. And I know they were just packed full of chemicals because they were coming off those orchards. So it's hard to see California that dry. And the hills were brown, everything dry. So I had a lot of talks with my cousins about how to have moisture on their property and what that looks like because my cousin has a vineyard and she's just let it dry. I don't think they're dead, but she's just not watering it because it's just so much money to water things. So we talked about putting cover crops in, what it looks like to have, build soil from, 'cause she's just used to that whole method with spraying and keeping the pests down and blah blah. So it's an interesting talk, but I almost feel like it's a little late there because it's so dry. And they have very rich soil, but without moisture, they're not going to be able to really be sustainable. I think they're just sucking up their aquifer there hard. But they have a lot of potential for rainwater. She says that twice a year or twice in the last 5 years, she had a major water event. And because there's no plants in the vineyard in the orchard, the water just came through, flooded everything, took out all the roads because she just didn't have planted anything in those areas to suck the water down. So we had a long talk about what that is and how to do that. And I think she heard it, but the manpower required to do that kind of agriculture, she works full-time job and has a vineyard, is kind of unsustainable for her. But I just don't think they have thought about that. So, I'm all influenced by these movies, Kiss the Ground, and what are some of the other ones? The Biggest Little Farm. She's seen the movie. She saw it. Yep. Kiss the Ground, and then there's one more. What is it? The sequel? Common Ground. Thank you. And those feature Ray Archuleta. Does anybody know who he is? Ray Archuleta? Nobody knows? You can tell me. At the conference I was at, yeah. So Ray and it's Joel, right? Joel I saw Ray speak at the conference last year, and he was super awesome because he's really dynamic and he has all these great, images and has it down really fast. And he just really talks about all the soil science and everything behind why cover crops, why regenerative agriculture. And I was sold. And I thought, why couldn't this be applied to gardeners? Why couldn't we sequester the carbon? Why can't we be sustainable? Why can't we have yards that our wildlife can flourish and we can hold carbon, we can hold the moisture? And so it really influenced me to talk more about that, which is why, since I've been president, we've been giving out cover crops. And so cover crops are really a part of everybody here made our cover crop packages, but please take some. These are all the winter ones. And it's time to plant now, put in your winter cover crops. Sustain, keep the moisture in the ground, and sequester carbon. So that's my message. And so the presenter who will introduce you isn't here, so I will. I met him at the conference, and I thought, he's dynamic. He's a good speaker. You need to come talk. So here he is. And he has a farm up in and he talked about these same principles that I'm talking about in his speech. And I just thought, how fun. So welcome.
And that's my favorite conference of the year, the Southern Family Farm Conference. Tofka is really good, but Southern Family Farms Conference is always great. Sure. Oh, yes, let me go ahead. It'll keep me on track. And I will tell you, please let me know when it's getting close to time, because I can, if it comes to talking about the farm, I can do that all day. It's a very passion. I always tell people I had to wait till I was 60 years old to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up.
Share a second screen there.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. I also want to tell you we need a new board member. If anybody is interested, let us know.
My name is Greg Joel. I'm the farm manager for Opal's Farm in Fort Worth. We're an urban farm. We're right next to downtown. We have a beautiful backdrop of the skyline of downtown Fort Worth is right across the river from us. And it's turned out to be kind of this little ocean of peace and quiet in the middle of the big city. And we really, really enjoy that there. Our mission is basically empowering communities through food. And we broke ground February 15th, 2019. And we broke ground with a few things in mind. We filed our conservation plan within our CS. We made a commitment that we were going to be 100% organic. We are not organic certified, so I can't tell you our produce is organic, but I can tell you it's farmed 100% organically. So we made a commitment. Miss Opal, and I don't know if y'all are familiar with Miss Opal Lee. She's nationally known as the grandmother of Juneteenth. And let me get the right spot here. Oops. There we go. And just kind of to tell you what we do, a little bit about what we do is it's Miss Opal she used to be president of the Community Food Bank, which is right around the corner from us there in Fort Worth. They feed about 500 people a day. It's a pretty good sized food bank. And when she was president, she used to stand out in line and talk to people. And she'd say, if you could had a place to grow your own food, would you do it? And the overwhelming majority said yes, out of all these people she asked. And I will tell you that 6 years after the fact, none of those people come down to the farm. Farming is difficult. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And a lot of people have this romanticized idea about farming. We have an organization called Grow North Texas, and I love they do a video webinar called "So You Think." You should not. Okay, and if people still want to do it after that, they're farmers, and we really appreciate that. But Miss Opal talked to her friends at the Tarrant Regional Water District. The Tarrant Regional Water District controls everything from Lake Bridgeport, northwest of Fort Worth down to Richland Chambers Reservoir off 545. And we received 5 acres. I think our actual lease is 6.8, and it's about 4 that's farmable, arable land. And it was for the express purpose of an urban farm. And we broke ground, like I say, in 2019. Our first year, we started with absolutely nothing. Donated seed. We had a BCS tractor that we got from Whole Foods, gave us a grant for that. I had one volunteer, young man who came back to see us. He graduated from Cornell last year, and he came back to spend some time with me last Saturday. And I'm grateful for that. But he and I worked the whole summer, and we only developed the first acre. And when we set the first acre, of course, we had no soil amendments. Everything was from the ground up. In our first year, we did 3,500 pounds of food in that first season. The following year, being a nonprofit, trying to get money to do anything for a dream is what it was the first year. This is what we're going to do. Funders don't like to do that. They like to see metrics. And we were able to show them that. And we got our first grant the following year. And we were able to buy some soil amendments. We were able to buy our own seed because most of the donated seed, quite frankly, was sold. A lot of it didn't come up. And we average now, that first year we went to 9,800 pounds of food off the same acre. We average right now, up until last year, 10,000 pounds of food per acre. We have 2.5 acres now under development. And I'm going to talk about the biointensive section that we do. We have that in a third of an acre now. The rest of the farm is tractor farm. But we are on track. I just ran the numbers, and we're on track to do almost 20,000 pounds on our first acre. And that's a lot of food. And what we do is we take 10% of everything we grow is automatically donated. That's we're not a faith-based organization, but we are faith-based. We kind of consider that our tithe or our first fruits. Give that back to the community. The rest of it we take and we split in half. And we take half of that to Cowtown Farmers Market, which is the oldest farmers market in Fort Worth, and we sell it retail. Now, I work for a nonprofit. I can't afford farmers market prices. Okay, I will not pay $8 for a dozen eggs, right? That just doesn't fly. That we take the other half, and we take that half. Miss Opal was real emphatic about making sure that we serve the community. And we're members of Grow Southeast, which is a coalition of urban farms there in Southeast Fort Worth, Southeast Tarrant County. Tarrant County, we're a very affluent, for the most part, county. There's a lot of money. A lot of people have moved in. It's growing. We're the 13th largest city in the United States. We are also one of the top 10 most food insecure counties in the nation, not just in Texas, but in the nation. The reason is we have a lot of lower income communities where there is a lot of, I hate the term the USDA uses, food deserts. Southeast Fort Worth, where we are, is 27 square miles and one grocery store. If you add East Fort Worth to that, it's 72 square miles. So these folks are living on a diet of everything at the dollar store and convenience. 20% of people in Tarrant County do not have a vehicle. And I don't know how your transit system is here in Austin. I know it's far better than ours. And I know that if you ever have to use transit in Fort Worth, to get someplace you need to go to buy groceries can be an almost all-day adventure. It's really time consuming, and most people don't do that. So they're getting empty calories. They're able to stave off hunger but they're not getting nutritious. And as a result, 76104, which is the zip code just south of our farm, is the unhealthy zip code in the state of Texas. Their life expectancy is 10 years below the state average. It's 66.7 years. And it's mostly food-related illnesses. It's already diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, all of the things, poor nutrition. And so Grow Southeast, when we all came together and did this, they sat down and they wanted to do this thing of getting our mission statement, right? And I'm going to tell you, my mission statement is we want to change people's lives through farming. That's all we want to do. But this is their really fancy one they came up with, so I'm going to read it to you. I'm supposed to memorize it, and after 6 years, I still haven't memorized it. But we build building vibrant glasses here. Vibrant local communities through regenerative urban farming, faithful gathering, and lasting fellowship. And what we mean by that, there are two things beyond just the food. We want to be an example for other people on how to grow their own food. We have an organization, a nonprofit that's called Southside Community Gardens. They go into 76104 and they help the neighborhood build their own raised gardens, make front, I mean, in Fort Worth now you can have food crops in your front yard. Used to not be able to do that. And so they help them with that, and we offer some education. The other thing we've learned is that folks that go without healthy food and fresh produce don't know what to do with it when they get it. So we do cooking classes, we do cooking demonstrations. We have a specific market called Mindful Market that serves the southeast Tarrant County area, what's called Polytechnic Heights. And there, every market there's a food demonstration. We hand out recipes. We try to get people to understand how important it is to eat with those good, healthy foods. Our vision, this is a little more accurate. We imagine a world where diversity is evident, opportunities are plentiful, and divisions are crossed, all in pursuit of lasting unity. Opal's Farm creates community empowerment through food, and through our work, we hope to generate a replicable model of community building, engagement, and empowerment. And I know that's a whole big mouthful, but it really is our whole mission together. Unity Unlimited is our parent nonprofit. We're a program of Unity Unlimited. Unity's sole purpose is to bring people together, regardless of creed, religion, lack of religion, race. It's about bringing people together and in community. So everything we do at the farm is not only about growing the way that we believe, our core values believe that we should grow up. And I kind of feel like I'm preaching to the choir. The importance of being 100% organic, of being regenerative farmers, of taking care of what we've been entrusted with. And when we get to pass that on to the neighborhood, to the community, and have them do the same thing, we are really excited. And we invite the community to spend some time with us. And in just a bit, I'll tell you about one program that's coming up pretty quick that we're really excited about. Our core values. Oops. Well, and my fingers are way too big to get on this little bitty mouse pad here. Come on, cooperate with me. There we go. Our core values, well, resourceful. One of the things I got to tell you, when we first started out, we had to be resourceful. We had no money whatsoever. I went the first year there without getting paid. And I'm not bragging. It was really I went home to my wife in October after our first year. And I said, baby, I really screwed up. I shouldn't have taken this job. We're going to lose the house if we keep going. We're depleting our savings. I'm retired. And she looked at me and please, I don't want to sound like I'm preaching, but it was a very, very spiritual thing for us. She said, Greg, we prayed about this, and I think this is where you're supposed to be. Why don't you give it another month before you decide what to do? I said, well, baby, if we wait another month, we're going to lose the house. I said, so what? We had a place to live before we moved in here. And I reluctantly said, okay. And the very next morning, Dion Sims, who is Miss Opal's granddaughter and our executive director, called me at 8 o'clock in the morning. She said, Greg, you won't believe this. We got a grant from Visit Fort Worth. I haven't gone without a check since. So part of it is a faith issue of just, if you're doing the right thing, you keep putting one foot in front of the other until you get the rewards for doing that. And I really believe that what we do is really about doing the right thing. When I say resourceful, we had donated everything. We did a lot of extra work because we didn't have the tools to do the right kind of work, that we needed to do our job. And we still made it through that first year. Our second year, because we got some money, we got a little more resources going in, and I got paid, and I was really happy, and life was good again. We also believe in being resilient and rooted. And when I say rooted, that we're staying true to our roots is an important aspect of our community empowerment. Opal's Farm believes in aligning its efforts with its surrounding community and tailoring those efforts to those it serves. I will tell you, most of the people that we serve are communities of color. They're lower income communities. The demographics in Fort Worth are shifting. What used to be 100% African American communities are now 35, anywhere from 35 to 65% Hispanic. When we have Latinos come to the market, they don't always relevant to the communities that we serve, and we have to be really aware of doing that. And to do that, you have to listen to people. And I will tell you that that's one of the hardest lessons I've ever had to learn, is how to listen and not think I know. The most freeing thing that ever happened in my life was being taught the 3 words that I live by. I don't know. I don't know. You tell me. And by doing that, some things have changed, and we've been able to really connect with a lot of our community. The other thing that we really believe is resilience. And we are on the floodplain for the Trinity River. I had some lady call me about a year and a half after we first started, and she said she was a grad student researcher from the University of Texas, and she was calling, I guess, the confluence of Williams Creek and Onion Creek flooded, and the city bought like 1,000 homes and demolished them, and she said, well, what do you do if it floods? What do you mean? She said, what's your plan B? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, well, what's your plan B? You have to have a plan B. What do you do if it floods? And I said, well, we replant and wait till it grows up again. And she was so baffled by that. We had to have some. And what was funny is up until that time, we'd never had a flood. We had a flood the next year. We had a flash flood that came over. We got 15 inches of rain in one day. It took me about 2 days to be able to even get into the farm because it was so muddy. And when I got down there, were that many fish, and there were dead fish everywhere. We get wood chips from a local arborist right up the street. So I threw wood chips out, cover up the dead fish, and we got free fertilizer out of it. And now it washed up a mosaic virus that killed off our fall tomatoes. We had to pull everything, and that we burned and got rid of. We've not had that problem since, but we've had a couple more flash floods. And what happens is the same thing. You just cover up everything so it doesn't stink, and just thank God for the free fertilizer. That's all you do. And so resilience, being able to come back over some of the adversity that we've had to face. Because we're on the floodplain, we can't have a greenhouse. We can't have anything that's a permanent structure on the floodplain or anything that displaces water. So I can't even have a high tunnel, which is technically not permanent structure, but it has the covering that's not water soluble. I mean, water permeable. So I can have shade cloth because water can go through that, but I can't have something that might wash down the river. So that kind of limits some things that we're able to do. So I have the greenhouse at home. We do our starts there at the house. We also have an agreement with Tarrant County College. Their Northwest campus has a horticulture program. And they grow, this year, they grew 600 tomato plants and 100 and 200 pepper plants for us. And at a big cost savings to us, which we really, really appreciate. They've done that for 2 years now. And so I will tell you too, on our spring crop of tomatoes this year, we did 2.5 tons. And tomatoes are our highest profit margin item. That's the thing. And we've been the first. I was mentored by a gentleman who was a retired pharmaceutical research chemist, right? And he's very scientific and he's explaining all these things and I'm kind of old school. I still rely on the Farmer's Almanac. And I used to tell him, no, the Farmer's Almanac says our last frost date is this, and I'm going to go ahead and plant. And I've been the first one at market for 3 years in a row now with tomatoes. So guess who sells all the tomatoes? Everybody comes to me in the morning. And I'm going to tell you too, one of the reasons I do what I do, and I think maybe y'all can appreciate this. Several years ago, I used to do just community gardens and smaller scale stuff. And I had done a community garden over in Como, which is a traditionally African American section of Fort Worth. It's the oldest one in Fort Worth. It's also got the highest number of vacant lots per capita of anywhere in the state for that small area. It's very economically distressed. And there was a gentleman there, his name's Rainey Brown, who had a program, an after-school program and summer program for young men in the community. And they came out. It's the first time we had coming in. And I had a guy who's about 12, 13 years old, young man, and he looked and he said, "What's that?" And I'm sorry, I know that I'm sheltered, and but I thought everybody knew what a tomato was. You know, that was just like way beyond anything I could grasp. And I'm like, it's a tomato. And he looked at me and just dead serious and he said, "I thought they came out of cans." Thought they came out of cans. Yeah. And I said, "Oh, no, son, they don't come out of cans." And because I just brushed it off, I said, "Take a bite." Of course, he wouldn't do it. I said, "No, come on, take a bite." You know, I talked about his mama and talked about, poked him a little bit, teased him, and finally got him to take a bite. And if you had seen his demeanor, his whole countenance and his face change, and he took another bite, and he said, "Farmer Greg, can I take some home?" And that's one of the big things that motivates what we do. Right now, we're also doing, I don't know, well, at Tofco last year, we did a session on agritourism. That's a thing that we've added. And if you're farming, I will tell you, we have at Farmers Market, we have 30 farmers that are registered with the market, right? There are 3 of us that are full-time farmers. Oh, yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. Sorry, because I get to walk it, and I apologize. Farming is not a real profitable process in Texas unless you're talking a huge farm, and usually that's conventional farming that uses a lot of herbicides and insecticides and sprays and is tearing up the soil, and eventually it will be unfarmable, it'll be unarable land, right? And Ray asked a question at the conference last year. He said, "How much arable land is there in the world?" And everybody would raise their hand and say, "Oh, there's this much and this much." And he said, "No, there's none. We're using everything that we can use to raise food products, and that's growing smaller because we do it conventionally. We destroy soil structure with constant tillage. And I will tell you that at Opals, we're having to till. We do a minimal till. I'd love to say we're no till, but we haven't reached that point yet. We still face the dangers of Bermuda grass and Johnson grass. And I'm pretty well convinced, the old story in the Bible about God saying, Adam, I'm going to curse you with laboring by your hand. He didn't say that. He said, I'm going to give you Johnson grass and Bermuda grass. You're going to have to work your ass off for the rest of this, right? I'm sure that's what he said. And that has been our nemesis and part of the reason that we've had to till the new sections that we go in. Broad forking in our biointensive section has really cleaned that up. We don't have a big weed pressure problem there. And I'm sorry? Broad forking. We have a broad fork rather than using a spading fork. We use the broad fork. It's a little easier on the body. And we break that up and we go through and we literally clean out every bed. We double dig that whole section. We do 1/3 of an acre. We double dug everything. We went through with a broad fork. We cleaned everything out. The only thing that gets added back in is the stuff that we, after we're done harvesting, we terminate that cover crop, turn that into the soil for organic matter, lay another level of compost and plant again. We had roots in the ground, and that's the other thing that we are really, really big on is we do not ever allow anything to not have living roots in the ground. And I say that when we first till, we have an issue with that, but we plant immediately. So nothing is ever left for more than a week or two before it starts germinating, and it's always covered. And we do cover crop. Whenever I've expanded, we do 1/3 of an acre expansion for the last 4 seasons, growing seasons. And what I do is I actually cover crop that for 2 years before I'll put food crops in. Yeah, it really does. It makes a huge difference. We get all of our cover crops from Green Cover Crop up in Nebraska. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They are a wonderful company. They're very consistent with our values and with our practices. And they're real big on cover crops and what types of cover crops to use. I will tell you one thing about being in North Texas. North Texas, if there's a highway 360 that kind of runs just inside the Dallas and Tarrant County lines, and it's literally where East Texas ends and West Texas begins. The soil, the difference in the soil is just amazing, just in that short little span. And when you get into West Texas, I don't know why, to be honest with you, these are people that lack ambition. Sure. They just stop. They got going, and because North Texas, and this is the other thing, my wife with the foundation company for many years, and before engineers did a building report for building. Sorry, is deemed unsuitable for building. It's not a pleasant place. We have very low organic matter. We have mostly clay. Where we're at, we don't have that problem because we're in the river bottom, so we have a lot of alluvial sand, but that causes its own problems because of very, very fine sand, and it tends to pack really easy. So trying to keep that, we do subsoiling. I do that every year. I subsoil all my rows just to break it up and to have water and oxygen flow through that bottom. We made a commitment again to being regenerative. We don't want anything washing in off of our farm into the Trinity River. And I will tell you, I grew up in Fort Worth. I spent a little time away up in Colorado when I went to school. And growing up in Fort Worth, if I was a kid and I touched the Trinity River, my mother made me take a bath. That's how bad the river was. Okay. We water from that river today. I will tell you that in the last 30 years, the district has changed the water quality. It is one of the top 10 cleanest urban rivers in the United States. And that's the West Fork. Now, Dallas, that's a whole nother story. And I got to tell you, I hope I don't offend anyone from Dallas that may have come from Dallas. But one of my favorite commercials, when I was driving down here, I was thinking about it on this radio station I listened to in Fort Worth. It says, we call Fort Worth Funky Town. Keep Funky Town, Austin weird, and keep Dallas 30 miles away. And that's kind of how we prefer it too. So, which is funny because I actually have a lot of friends over there. They have a pretty good urban ag movement growing in Dallas now. As well. And one really neat thing about coming down and going to conferences here is I met a lot of people and a lot of people from Austin. And y'all have really impressed me. Urban agriculture has been a lot. You have a bigger foothold on urban ag here than anywhere else in the state. I talk to people regularly, and Austin is kind of the top right now. And we have a lot to learn from folks down here. Really appreciate that. Oh, come on, there we go. Green cover seed. Green cover seed. They're out of Bladen, Nebraska. They do a lot of soil science work. That's the other thing. When we first came down here, NRCS came out and they gave us this whole thing, what we needed to cover crop with and do all this stuff. And then I found out there's a huge problem with listening to the National Resource Conservation Service. They train most of their people in California. Growing in California is a lot different than growing in Texas. Okay. And growing in California is not a real, is virtually, I'd love to be growing out there. It's pretty easy, right? Compared to here, it's really easy. Yeah, it is. It's really good. Yeah. Oh, sure can. Mm-hmm. Oh.
So we need to stop sharing.
It is. Right. Okay. Let's see. Yep. Oh, that's okay. Yep.
No, it's going great. They're back away. And
Yes. Thank you.
otherwise it's going
Yes.
great. They're
Thank
enjoying
you.
it, so it's going good.
For them. Oh, okay. So you were getting the right ones here, but not on the.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yes. So. Uh-huh. Yeah. Mhm. Eats it out. Well, hey, the soil, psyllium develop out. Is that the best way? It's three. Okay. Uh-huh. Yeah, between. Okay. That sounds. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm down for incidents. If I don't answer, a lot of times during the day, I can't get the phone. So I try to get there like back up. Yeah, just come on the mail over. Thank you. Yes. Uh-huh. Okay. 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 Cool. I'm always looking for this. This until 6 years ago, I had done and I learned so much. And so, and the neat thing about it is, you learn something. There's always something better. Yep, exactly. It is. The only Hey, thank you. Great, thank you. I'm going to kind of click through some of these slides because when I do, when I talk about regenerative agriculture, again, I kind of feel like I'm just preaching to the choir. One of the things that we do, and we do our own composting. In the state of Texas, there's a Good Samaritan law. When a grocery store gives you anything from the store and you take it away, they are no longer responsible for that someone eating it and gets sick, right? So there's no liability on there. Unfortunately, the big stores don't do that. They have attorneys that tell them, no, 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 you can't. We're very fortunate. We have a chain of local family-owned stores in Fort Worth. One's called Elrod's Groceries. The other is Foodland. They have 13 stores, and we're able to pick up from 3 of them. We have a company called Carpool Compost. They're another nonprofit, and they bring about 1 ton to 2 tons of produce to the farm every Monday or every Thursday. Okay, we turn that into compost. There at the farm, we do our own composting. We're also keeping 1 to 2 tons a week out of the landfill. And in Fort Worth, that's a big deal right now because our landfill is filling up 30 years ahead of schedule. So they're looking right now to go to another area to build one. And and try not to be political and not get on a soapbox, but I know that where they're going to build it is going to be in a very low income area, and it's going to displace some more folks when they do that. And so we want to do everything we can to keep food out of the landfill. And carpool compost also takes that. And one thing with food stores, back in 2021, when we had the big freeze, the 2 week of, oh, I got to, huh? Yeah, the snow apocalypse. I'm going to tell you too, it's the first time I've ever worn my Carhartt coveralls in Texas. I wore them for 2 weeks straight because we had no power. But I went to the phone, to the farm, and it's also the first time I have ever seen the Trinity River frozen over and covered in snow. It was just like a big white mass going across town. And when the snow melted, I lost most of my potatoes. They had just started coming up when the freeze hit. I lost about a third of my onions. And then I uncovered my spinach. I didn't lose any. And spinach is a really hardy vegetable. I was just blown away because I had a little frost burn on a few of the leaves, and that was it. And so we took spinach to market for 6 weeks. That's all. But we were also the only, there were only 3 farms at market because we all got hit so hard. When we do the composting, one of the things we sift our own compost now. We also buy some from Silver Creek Materials, which is just west of Fort Worth. They do organic enriched compost, and they do a lot of recycling out there. It's a wonderful organization. We had a slide just a second ago of MicroLife fertilizer. We do try to use organic fertilizers, and they have a product called Texas Special, which is OMRI certified. It's a soybean and alfalfa base 621, I believe, and it's a slow release, and we love it because it lasts through most of the season. We don't have to reapply it very often. If you remember, oh geez, now I just went blank on the name of the company. They used to make great compost. And Ladybug. I was trying to remember the name. Ladybug, when they got bought out, the company that bought them wanted to use sewage, human waste, in their fertilizer. So Ladybug kept that recipe, and they gave it to Silver Creek. So we get the same Ladybug now, which is really, really cool. They're having some problems with their distributor, that bags it for them and everything right now. But it's really hard in Texas to find organic amendments. And that's the other thing we've learned is just because it says natural doesn't mean squat. I will tell you, we have on occasion had to go to, I believe it's either Texas Two-Step or Texas Tea. And Texas Tea is a natural fertilizer. It is all natural except for the urea that's in that is man-made. It's a synthetic formula. And we don't like to use it, but we have encountered a couple shortages where that was like we had to have something. So we have used that. MicroLife is a wonderful fertilizer. They're out of Houston. They're also very, very expensive for us to get shipped to Fort Worth. And it's just financially difficult. We can't do that. So we're real careful about what we put down. With our waste products, I want to tell you everything that's on the farm. I've had a small dumpster set up by our barn for us to fill up as we get it. I've emptied that once in 6 years. Everything that we grow, everything at the farm goes back into the farm. Everything. The only thing it doesn't is occasionally we get stuff from the grocery stores that are in plastic bags, and we have to take them out and dump them. But everything there is no waste, and we're trying to reach a point of being zero waste. I don't know that that'll ever happen, but that's real important to us. Um, I know I've been going on, and I don't mean to, I love to talk about the farm. I always tell people I had to wait until I was 60 years old to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up. And after living corporate life and being a contractor for 20 years, I will tell you this is the most wonderful job that anybody could ever have. Oh, I will tell you too, working for Miss Opal and working for Dion is family. We are not a family farm. We're a nonprofit. It's very much a family. And the people that we have come in, we have a ton of volunteers. Mimi was up in Fort Worth this weekend for the high. We have a 5K that we do with Joppy Mama's Farm over in South Dallas. Joppa is the oldest freedmen's town in the Dallas area, North Texas. And they started an urban farm there for the community. And Kim High, who is the manager there, and also used to be the manager at Polkwin College, their president, when the college was going broke, came in and said, got rid of the football program and turned the football stadium into a giant garden. And we just love him to death. And they do so well that they're customers of the Dallas Cowboys and the Texas Rangers. So they're very fortunate in that. But when Kim left there during COVID, Kim went and started Joppy Mama's Farm. And part of the thing with diabetes, November is Diabetes Awareness Month. Kim has a family, and her whole family had a huge problem with diabetes. Her diabetes has been in remission for 4 years because of her diet and exercise. She has no problem with, she's basically cured of diabetes. And that's the message that we try to tell everyone. Last year, was it last year? We had the White House Council on Hunger, Nutrition and Hunger. One of the things that they really pushed is using food as medicine. So we're fixing to start a new program in conjunction with Tarleton State. People in Fort Worth, we're going to take our first cohort is going to be between 20 and 25 people. They will go starting in January, 2 Saturdays a month to 2 hours of class time on those 2 Saturdays a month at the Tarleton Fort Worth campus. They will be instructed in soil science, all the things that need to come from the ag department there at Tarleton. And we specifically said it needs to all be in regenerative agriculture. They are going to then have their practical experience at Opal's farm. And we're giving all the members of the cohort, each of them will get a 10 by 20 foot plot. They will build that plot from the ground up. That will start it, and we're teaching the biointensive method of farming. It'll be double dug, cleaned out. And if they want to keep that plot after they leave, after the program's over, they'll graduate in June. We're also helping them learn how to market the stuff they grow, to sell at farmers markets, to sell at we have a couple of restaurants we sell to. Most places that call themselves farm to table are not. But we have 2 truly farm to table restaurants in Fort Worth, and they both buy from us, which I'm really proud of. We are going to help all of these folks learn how to do the whole thing. Even if they don't want to market, they don't have to come to market with us. But they'll finish the program in June, and they'll get a certificate. It's a continuing education credit. They'll get a certificate from Tarleton. In the fall, we are starting a program for, we call it returning citizens. It's for previously incarcerated individuals. If someone has been incarcerated in the state of Texas, the chances are real good they have worked on a prison. That's the way it is. We have all the job descriptions from the Department of Criminal Justice. We know exactly what we're doing with all of that. We're working with both Tarleton's ag people and with their criminology folks to get these folks an actual degree from Tarleton State University at no charge to them in agricultural science, so that when they leave, they're qualified to be a farm manager. A farm manager averages, and the salary is not huge, it's $55,000 a year. Given the price of housing, that doesn't sound a whole lot anymore, But when your only options usually as a person with a felony on their record is low paying or minimum wage jobs, that's an excellent form of income. It also gives them a lot of dignity that somebody believes in them. And that's why we call the program returning citizens. We forget that just because they were incarcerated, they're still citizens. They're our neighbors, and we need to give them an opportunity. And we hope to reduce recidivism through that. And also, and this is the kicker, the little tagline underneath returning citizens is time served is not time wasted. What that means is if they've worked in the system in ag, they get college credit for those hours. So that 4-year program turns into and they're working with TCC, our community college there in Tarrant County, to get the basics. So they will have everything they need for a full degree in agriculture. And we really felt like that was the end. That was the kind of pinnacle of what we wanted to do. But then we also want to have that be a replicable model for other people to do somewhere else. That's vocational horticulture is exactly what, and I'm going to give you, I have a felony conviction. I've been in recovery for 20 years. When I was in corporate life, I got strung out on pain pills. As a result, I'm a recovering addict. Okay. I don't normally wear that on but as a result, I also encountered a drug-related felony, 3 of them, as a matter of fact, in the state of Colorado. I will tell you from personal experience that it is so difficult because, see, the question they ask now, it used to be back when I was in HR, it's, have you been convicted of a felony in the last 7 years? Now it's, have you ever been convicted of a felony? And if they pull it up, now they get your arrest record too. And if they even see you've been arrested or something, regardless of whether you're convicted or not, it can be very, very difficult to find a good job. I have to tell you, in the 12-step fellowship I'm in, I noticed a lot of these guys had these nice big trucks. They had their own companies. They were all their own truck. And I thought, well, that's why I couldn't figure out why they all did that. It's all because they couldn't get a job anywhere else. So they started their own business. And a lot of people are fortunate enough to be able to do that, but most people are not. So we want to be not just feeding the body, but feeding the soul too. One thing I will tell you with the farm, and this is the other thing with the program at Tarleton, we have a whole program part of that called Opal's Pharmacy, FARMC, and it's food is medicine. Eating the right things to correct some of the health-related health issues that go on in some of these areas that are low income and have incredible health disparities. And I always tell my friends that are in the medical field, my job is to put you out of business. That's what I do. I'm here to put doctors out of business. I know that's an exaggeration and generalization, but really that's what I want people to learn. And we're real happy to be doing that as part of it. See what else I put on here. Farm stewardship, of course. You know, I assume everybody's watching the movie Kiss the Ground, Common Ground, the sequel to that, Kiss the Ground. They have a statement that I just love. It says, the whole of life depends on the first 6 inches of hot soil. And whether you agree or disagree, if it's not the whole of life, it sure is a large percentage. Okay. So that means that we have to take care of what we can give it. And our whole philosophy is that we need to leave everything better than when we found it. And to do that requires a lot of work. If you've been doing this a while, you know that in the beginning, it was a lot of hard work to get all the infrastructure right, to get all the things, the soil right, to build that soil up. And today, if you go out, I can tell you that when we broke ground, some of that stuff was not a pretty sight. And there were a couple areas at the farm. I will tell you that when the levees were built in 1960, their definition of clean fill was a lot different than ours is today. I have some antiques I've actually found that I dug up at the farm. But we have worked that now. If you go out and see, particularly in our biointensive section, we have and I took some pictures that I was going to show and then and my phone would not allow me to upload these to my computer. I was so pissed because we have our okra is still going strong, right? And all of our okra this year did something really weird. It grew about yay high. It didn't get any higher, but it put out like you wouldn't believe. And the tops of it looked like all dead. But it the okra is this tall, and in a 25 percent putting out and I and this is the thing, I was telling a story about the kid. If I could get one kid to understand, and in Texas, the average age of a farmer is 62. I'm finally above average at something. I'm real, but if the average age is 62, what does that mean? What does that mean generation from now? Who's going to be growing what we eat? The 7 companies that control the food supply right now. So when I get a kid that comes out, and this is the other thing, we started doing agritourism this last year, and we have field trips that come out on Wednesdays. We're tied in with the Texas Homeschool Network, and we get a lot of homeschool kids that come out. And what's so cool is to have these kids come out and you get to talking to them. And I've had to learn how to talk to 6 and 7-year-olds, and that's not really easy for me. But of course, it's not easy for me to talk to anybody, but it's really hard with them sometimes because some of the things we work with just seem like they're such big topics, right? But these kids are really, really sharp. They know a lot more than we give them credit for. And what's really cool is when they come out, we'll do in our introduction, we break them up into 3 groups. We have a TEACS, which is Texas Central Knowledge and Skills, approved curriculum that we developed. They have 6 different tracks, and they can pick any 3 of them, and we rotate them through a 2-hour session. We have watershed management, composting, container gardening, farm ecology, some things that these kids are really interested in. They do a farm tour. One of it is always a farm tour. And Stacy, our volunteer coordinator, I tease her. She's just a great big kid herself, so she's really good with these little guys. And she goes around, and we always ask them, how many of you like vegetables? All the hands are like this. Nobody likes vegetables. They won't eat. Well, part of the farm tour is very sensory. They get to go around. They feel everything. They see how everything's growing. And because we're all organic and we operate on the theory that dirt don't hurt, we brush it off, take a bite. They'll take a bite. And guess what? They take vegetables home with them in the afternoon. When they're done, they're taking vegetables home. And if we can spark just that one little bit of interest, maybe, just maybe, one of them will be taking my job one day. Hopefully they'll be taking my assistant manager's job because I'll probably be gone. But, that's the other thing. I also said I would never hire anybody under 40 again. And my assistant manager was 29 when I hired him, so really had to back off from that. And he's 30 this year, so it's kind of a good thing. He's hit the big time now. But Joey, our assistant manager, came to us from World Hunger Relief in Waco. World Hunger Relief has been around since '72. They have and we use our biointensive area as our learning garden. And what's really cool is the Dallas Wings, the women's NBA team, came out and said, you need a fence around this. So they got the Texas Fence Association, and they're coming out next week to build a fence around that. That's the other thing. Now, I do allow the Bermuda and the Johnson grass to grow in 2 areas of the farm, where we have our watermelons and where we have our cantaloupes. And the reason for that is because we have 2-legged predators. We are right next to Trinity Trails, which is the big trail network all the way through Fort Worth. We are also close to the missions. And if you go around the corner and down the river a little bit, there are homeless camps. And we know that we have a lot of gleaning. We allowed for that in our business plan. We also figured if somebody's hungry, we need to let them eat. Food is a basic human right. It doesn't matter whether they're living in a tent or whether they're living in the mansion down the street. They need to be eating, right? And so we kind of made that. Now, I will tell you, we have had a couple times where I was getting ready to harvest my watermelons, and I came down and all my watermelons were gone, to the tune of about 400 pounds that were ripe. Okay, we got hit. Well, first of all, I called Miss Opal. Now, understand that watermelons are Miss Opal's favorite food. She had been bugging me since May. When are the watermelons? Are the watermelons ready? I'm going to pick them tomorrow, Miss Opal. And I went and they were gone. Miss Opal called the chief of police for the city of Fort Worth. The next day, have you ever seen those big Skywatch towers they put in parking lots with the cameras? And we had one on the farm. That's the nice thing about having Miss Opal sometimes, which was kind of weird having the police watch you work. It was just a weird feeling. But what was even more disturbing is I left because I had to go get some parts at the hardware store up the street. And as I turned up the street and I went about 4 blocks up, there was a guy selling watermelons out of the back of his truck at 4th and Sylvania, right up the street from us. And I looked, and organic fruit is not what you see at the grocery store, right? It's not always as pretty. And I was looking going, those are our watermelons. But I couldn't prove a word. I couldn't prove it at all. So we have learned to let the Johnson grass grow up. And if they can't, it's kind of like doing insect cover over brassicas. If the harlequin bugs can't see them, you don't have a problem, right? And so it's kind of the same way with our 2-legged predators. I will tell you, in the middle of town, and this is what's really cool too, we have a real vibrant little ecology going on right in that little section. We've been spared feral hogs, which is I'm real grateful for, because we do have a problem with them farther upriver, and they have torn some land up there. I have coyotes. And I have one, they had pups last year, and one of them, and she's a little girl, she comes down and literally sits about 10 feet away, grabs me, work. I love it. And I know that I get all excited about that stuff, right? And I did not know this. One thing, when you have, we had everything covered with insect cover, and we'd come in the morning and the cover would be all torn. You could tell it had been scratched up real bad and torn up, and there were headless mice all over the top of the. And I have a pretty strong stomach, but I had an issue with that. I did not like seeing that first thing in the morning. And I couldn't figure out what was going on until we found out that the livers in mice and rats are toxic to bobcats, and they only eat the top half of the body. So we had a bobcat, and I've actually seen him a few times. We have a bald eagle that lives down on the sandbar just below us. We have an official farm hawk. His name is Ethan. We were going to name him Tony, but he does not skateboard. So, Ethan will literally, especially with peas, because they're so fibrous, I usually will not use the mower because I don't want them to share it. When I'm terminating the crop, I'll use a weed eater. Ethan will literally stand right here next to me and follow me around like a little dog. Because what happens is when I cut the peas, I chase mice out. And he's, they're gone. So he's our farm hawk. I got to show you one last thing here. That's Dion and Miss Opal. Community. Here we go. Jameson. Jameson is our official farm dog. Jameson is a 120-pound lap dog. He's a Catahoula, full-blood Catahoula. And this is after his very exhausting day. He goes through the farm and digs up mice. Unfortunately, he also tends to dig up some veggies in the process of doing that. But Jameson is our farm dog, and we love Jameson. During the summer, the very first thing he does is hop out of my truck and run down and hop in the river to cool off. And that's and for a long time we had to irrigate, doing irrigation the old way, flooding furrows, because it used to be there was a general ordinance that you could not have a submersible pump in the river. It had to be a suction pump. And to know, a suction pump can only lift water about 23 feet before it can't go any farther. It hits air. And so I would have to haul the pump down the levee every day, prime the pump, fill it up. And I mean, just the pump alone was an hour and a half out of my day every day getting the pump. And we'd flood the furrows. And Jameson would go through the furrows and just lay down. And so for about 2 years there, until we got the pump house, my truck was covered in mud most of the time. But we were really grateful that we have what we do, where we do. And I would love for y'all to come up sometime, if you're ever in Fort Worth, to come by and see us. We have just had a delightful year. Our no amount of produce is going up every year, and we're able to serve people a lot better with doing that. And the fact that we're leaving things better than we found it is just amazing to me. And Dion will tell you, she tells people this all the time. She says, for whatever reason, we are very blessed and highly favored. And I really believe that, because we've been real successful since we started. And as Miss Opal told me, we've done so much with so little for so long that we can do anything with nothing. And there's a lot of truth to that. And part of it, and I really believe this, I know you guys you wouldn't be in an organic garden if you weren't committed to that, right? I get that. But being committed to taking care of what's been given to us and being committed to doing for your community what's been so very graciously given to me. I have to, 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, I was a homeless dope. Okay. I tell you that, not look at me. What amazes me is that 3 years ago, I won an award for community leadership. The year after that, I won one of the 400 most influential people in Tarrant County for World Magazine. This December, I will be going to the White House to have Christmas dinner with the Bidens. And I tell people that but don't ever give up on anybody. Don't ever give up on anybody. Because if you just give a little bit of love and a little bit of respect and a little bit of dignity to somebody, they can come a long, long way. And that's as important to me as anything I do with growing what's in the world. And I really think that's what makes my job so special. And I really think this is what makes the farm so special. If you ever get a chance, please come by. Give us a holler. We'll be at TAFCA in January in Pflugerville. The conference this year is in Pflugerville. We'll be at TAFCA. We also, I know you're not necessarily farmers. Gardening and farming are two different things. I get that. We're all about production and getting some things out. And I know y'all are too. You want to obviously maximize what you have there. But we're also members of FARFA, the Farm and Ranch Freedom Alliance. And FARFA is the advocate for small farms and family farms. Oh, did Judith come? I love Judith. I love her to death. And so the legislature is to convene, and that means the agriculture subcommittees will be also convening. And if you have a chance, go by and let them know they can't get away with some of the crap they've been getting away with. Mm-hmm. At the Capitol, and we also have one coming up for the Capitol in DC, and which is going to be real interesting given, and I'm trying not to be political, but it's going to be really interesting given the circumstances we now find ourselves in with talking to the administration up there and mostly to the Senate and the House. So keep us in your prayers and keep doing the work you do. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Oh, Ellerby's Fine Foods. Oh, repeat the question. What are the two restaurants in Fort Worth that are truly farm to table? Ellerby's Fine Foods, which is on Magnolia, over in the old Fairmont Historic District. Her menu changes with what's in season and what she buys everything at Farmers Market. The other is Bonnell's Restaurant on Bryant Irvin and I-20, 820 South. Bonnell's, they also own a huge ranch just west of Fort Worth there, and they do their own beef as well. It's all grass-raised, finished beef. And they are also one of the top restaurants in Fort Worth. They are just really fine dining. And Ellerby's, I know that we don't do cheese, but if you ever have a chance to have a grilled cheese sandwich, I mean, it's out of this. I thought, how can you make a grilled cheese sandwich special? This was awesome. So, I'll pass that on. Yes, ma'am. Silver Creek, where Silver Creek Compost comes from, Silver Creek Materials is a big mining and recycling facility just west of Fort Worth. They take like all the tree trucks in Fort Worth, dump all their wood shavings there. We have several farms, like there's a big onion farm north of Dallas that brings like dump truck loads of onions to dump off. They also do something really cool. They recycle. I did not know this, but beer and bottled water have expiration dates. They have arrangements where you see semi trucks all the time with beer and expired soda, anything expired drinks, okay, and expired water. And they have guys that empty it all and they pour it down this big thing that goes to a pond, and then they sprinkle their compost field all constantly with that. So that stuff's all getting a lot of sugars. It's really turning, that stuff is really, really thick. It's beautiful black compost. I get excited. I'm sorry. I think it's really cool when it's a hot summer day and you like lift the compost up, all the steam rises. I think that's just so cool. And but they're wonderful. And you know what's really, this is the other thing. I try to find vendors that have the same values that we do. That's who I want to support financially. Silver Creek is one of those. Green Cover is another. I buy all of our seed exclusively now from Johnny's Seed because they're employee owned. They also have great reps here in Texas. I guess, oh God, I just went blank on her name. She has a farm in Bastrop. Becky, yeah, Becky, I guess is no longer with Johnny's, so they have a new rep for tech, but they listen to what's going on here. They're in Maine, which I thought, why would I want to buy seeds from Maine, right? But they are really receptive to listening to the specific needs. And as the climate changes, we're having to look for more ways to, for instance, our salad mix. We do a salad mix that's called cheap frills, and mostly it's Asian greens. It's very much like a spring mix, right? And we add to that this thing called Tokyo Bacana. That's our lettuce. When we tell people it's our lettuce, right? It's not really lettuce. It's related to Chinese cabbage. Okay, it's in the same family as Chinese cabbage, but it's also extremely heat and drought tolerant. Okay, so it thrives. We can grow that year round here. Our green beans, we grow green beans because we have customers that I hate green beans. I love green beans. I hate harvesting. It is a pain in the neck. And I don't like labor intensive crops because I do have to think about cost, the labor costs that go into that, right? Green beans in Texas, you're lucky if you get a spring crop because from the time you plant them till they start coming in and pick, we had it went to 100 2 years ago, it went to 100 and something degrees on June 3rd and stayed that way for the entire summer. Well, we got one pick off our green beans. Fall is a little different, but then you run the risk of you just don't get that many for the money. So what we did is we went to growing yard lawns. We trellis those, which is really great for me because I'm 6'3". I hate bending over to pick up anything. And yard long beans, you just stand there and pick. And we had the first year I tried them. They're native to Southeast Asia, so they love the heat, and they produce all summer long. And I got people to try them. Now everybody wants yard long beans, right? And I will tell you that I had two 25-foot beds the first year I did them. I did off a 25-foot bed 50 pounds a week. I was doing 100 pounds of green beans a week off of 2 beds in the biointensive area. So, yes, sir. Oh, yard long beans, they're native to Southeast Asia. They're very similar to green beans. They literally are that long. I mean, they are like average 2 to 3 feet long. Okay, and you just cut them up and cook them like you would green beans. They're great. Mm-hmm. They have a couple of varieties. We tried adding a variety. The one we usually get is called Python is the variety. And this year we added red noodle, which is the red beans. They're green beans, but they're red. And people were like, I'm not sure. And then they tried them and like, you have any more of those? And we're like, if something's going good, that's the thing too. We're trying to learn what everybody and their dog. You go to farmers market, getting squash, getting tomatoes, getting all that stuff is everybody's growing, right? So partially you want to find a niche somewhere in that somebody else is not growing. We do, there's only one other farm that does eggplant. We grow a couple of varieties of eggplant. Eggplant's really cool because it also likes it. The hotter it is, the better it does. Peppers, we do a lot of peppers, although we have one farmer that's been doing them for years and he's kind of cornered the market on them. I've got to tell you, just because you see a seed packet that says a variety doesn't always mean that's the variety. We planted what we thought were Anaheim chilies this year, and they came up and they didn't look like Anaheim chilies, but they were real red, and they went from green to red, and they were kind of small. And so I decided to take a bite and see how that tasted. Anaheim chilies are pretty mild. And I love hot things. I did not like these. They were really hot. They were mixed serranos. And So every now and then you kind of have to, you get a little mistake that comes through the line. And what's really funny is, again, trying to be culturally aware. They do great at the farm stand that we have there at the farm. That's the other outlet we have that we go to the community with, is right there at the farm. And so they do real well. It's a predominantly Latino community. Mostly the African-American part of that community is getting older, and um, the houses are starting to sell, and it's becoming a more Latino community. And so we try to be culturally aware of that. And again, I don't know. I've been watching the weather enough to know that y'all have suffered the heat as well down here. I can only imagine. I mean, you're only 4 hours south of us, but and I know that we've changed. Our growing zone has moved from 7A to 7B. And so it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. So we really have to look at the varieties. And that's the other thing. Now, we don't have a problem. We pump from the river. Our water's free. That's not the case for most people. If you water and you're getting plants that require a lot of water, that's just more expense to you, you know? So we want to find varieties that are good for the neighborhood, because we want them to learn to grow. And I personally believe, and you can argue with me if you want, this is just personal belief and personal opinion, but growing your own food is the most revolutionary thing you can do. When you say no to Big Seven and do your own, then you have made a revolutionary statement. People don't think of that when they start their garden out in their backyard. But that's true, because it takes away some of their power and gives it back to you. And that's what we want to do with other folks. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Mhm. Yes, ma'am. We sell, and this, the question was about the half we sell to retail, which goes to Cowtown and goes to full retail. The other half that we sell at the farm stand, we first of all, we got approved to start accepting SNAP benefits last year. We also only sell at basically wholesale. We sell for less than what they're getting stuff at Walmart. And I know who supplies Walmart with their stuff, so I know they're getting that. Um, uh, we want to be not just competitive, we want to have a little bit of an edge. And hopefully we can also get people to understand they can do their own too. And part of the thing is, think about it, in the neighborhoods we serve, a lot of these parents are working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. And the kids are the ones responsible for doing the cooking and taking care of the house, because mom and dad are having to work 14 hours a day. And so we want to try and develop the easiest ways for them to be able to do those things for themselves. Yes, sir. Yeah, we get them from Johnny's. The different salad mix we get is called Cheap Frills. And it's funny, if you go look at the greens mix, it doesn't come up. So you have to go to the search bar on Johnny's Select Seeds and type in Cheap Frills, and it'll pull it up. I don't know why. I'm not technologically astute, but I know that you have to go actually pull it up by name to get that to show. But Cheap Frills has been the one that's the best for us. It's called Tokyo Bacana, Bekana. And I will tell you, it looks and taste it looks like you're getting butter lettuce. And the taste is out of this world. It's much better than butter lettuce. And the neat thing is the texture is just a little thicker than regular lettuce. I have a lady, one of my regular customers, And in the spring, in the summer, when you can't grow spinach, she buys that and cooks with it instead of spinach. So it has a different purpose too, a multi-purpose vegetable, which we really appreciate. Mhm. Yes, I have gotten Johnny's has just worked out so well for us. It's being members of Tofco, we get a little discount um, with Johnny's, and their seed. I pay real close attention to germination rates. Their seed germinates better than anything I've ever bought elsewhere. I used to buy from Wilhite, which is out in Poolville, west of Fort Worth there. And I also began to find out that they inoculate their stuff with stuff that isn't organic. So I quit. I don't buy anything from them anymore. And so it just became, rather than searching and looking for all this stuff, unless it's something really off the wall that someone wants me to grow, I just don't go looking elsewhere. Johnny's has been real good for us. Last year I did Paloma, which is a purple. It's a smaller purplish striped eggplant, and I did Calypso, which is all white. It's a white eggplant. Excuse me, my allergies are killing me. And those did really well. The problem with Calypso is you probably want some shade cloth, because they will get, being white, they tend to get sunburned a lot easier. I ran into that. That was kind of a learning experience for me. This year, I did a Japanese eggplant, and I didn't do the Paloma. I did, and I apologize, I cannot remember what the variety was, but it was a instead of a yellow or a purple stripe, it was a little bigger, and it was a purple, a light purple. And then the Japanese eggplant is dark purple. So, and both of them has been really big sellers. I like the Japanese eggplant a little better. It's not quite as bitter. Eggplant is bitter to me. And I got to tell you the other thing. I grew up on my uncle's ranch. So I spent every summer when I was a kid on my uncle's ranch in South Texas. I'm a carnivore by nature, meat and potatoes and Tex-Mex food, right? That's so if you said greens, I'm like, ain't gonna happen. And when we started growing stuff, I learned how to fix them. That's the neat thing about going to farmers market. As my customers, this is the neat thing about farmers markets too. You know, when you go to the grocery store, you basically have to watch people bumping into you with their carts and walk by not saying a word. And when you have customers at farmers market, people stay and you get to know them. You know what's going on with their families, what's going on. There's a relationship that starts. And I have learned more and better ways. Japanese turnips. We grow Hakurai turnips, Japanese turnips, salad turnips. A lot of people call them salad turnips. They're a lot sweeter. I don't like turnips. I don't care for them, but these are really good. I like to eat them raw. That's lunch a lot of times at work. I go pull a couple out of the ground, brush them off, and chow down because I don't eat a lot during the day. But I didn't care for greens, right? And I had one of my regular customers tell me, he took my wife's disabled, so when I come home from work, she hadn't been able to get in the kitchen the last 2 years. Her mobility is really limited right now, and so when I get home from work, I also I do the cooking, I do the cleaning, I do all of that. So I'm tired. I love the Instapot. It cooks everything really quick, right? And so he was telling me, he says, "Have you ever tried using the Instapot?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't." He said, "Yeah, take them and quarter the turnips and take the greens, cut them off, put the greens and the turnips in vegetable stock with a ham hock and a little, and then season them with some garlic and salt and pepper, and put a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar and a teaspoon of honey in it, and cook it for 7 minutes in the Instapot. 40 minutes on the stovetop because I've cooked them both ways. But 7 minutes in the Instapot. And man, I was like, I love this. These are greens. And and that's the other thing. We found like our mustards. Mustard greens can be a little bitter. They're just not very, I don't care for mustard greens. We found a variety again, at Johnny's. It's called Amara, Amara. It's a mild flavor, and it's really prolific in putting out. So you get a real good yield off a small amount of bed space. And last year, Miss Opal, she says now that she's 98 years old, she cooks one time a year, and it's on New Year's Day. And she has a New Year's Day dinner. And ironically, she doesn't do a lot of cooking for the New Year's Day dinner, because the New Year's Day dinner is usually for 400 people. And I mean, the whole neighborhood comes to her house, right? And in fact, we've had to move it to a couple of church community centers just because there's so many people. And this last year, Dion made some of the greens with, and now I still don't like collards. I'm just not there. But I had the turnip greens and the mustard greens, and she gave me her recipe, and I'm just in love. I eat them all the time. But I've learned all these things from people we just interact with all the time. And that's one of the beauties of being at the farmer's market, is being able to establish those relationships. And I will tell you too, I do know that Austin, I have friends, I have people that I've met, colleagues that are like with Farm Share Austin and with some of the other urban farms nearby here. And I know that it's been established here much longer. And I know that your growing area, your soil is different than ours. And so I don't know what your food advocacy community is like here, or your food justice community. But I will tell you that in Fort Worth, that is one thing I'm really proud to be a part of. We have some wonderful people. We are presently negotiating with the city of Fort Worth to expand their urban agriculture ordinance. We got them to change. It used to be you couldn't grow food crops in your front yard. We got them to change that. We got them to change the process for doing an urban farm or a community garden. This took like 4 years. We also got them to change the new dollar stores that open up in Tarrant County now have to have 15% of their floor space dedicated to fresh produce and meat. So being advocates, and this is the other thing with Judith, we just went through a municipal advocacy seminar. Well, it's a 2-part seminar with her. I have recordings, and you're welcome to email me. I'll shoot those back to you. But talking about just how to get with your local government and make changes that benefit your community. Those are just critical. And I really love the fact that we have such a great food advocacy community. And I'm going to say one last thing. I really have to tell this to everybody. I don't believe in food deserts. Food deserts indicate, and the USDA defines a food desert as anyone where you live, there is not a grocery store within 1 mile of your house. I live in a food desert. I have to go 5 miles to get to the grocery store, right? But I have a car. I'm able to afford to do that. I don't have to go to a dollar store. A desert indicates to me that it's a naturally occurring situation. A food desert is not a naturally occurring situation. It is very intentional. And the more correct term, and a lot of people do not like to hear this, but it's food apartheid. It closes off lower income communities of color, and those people come in, they drive out the mom and pop businesses that have been there for years, and then they leave and follow the white folks to the suburb. And what's left, the community has nothing. So if you get a chance with the other thing, I would ask you, please advocate for your folks, your neighbors that don't have access to fresh food. So, anything else? Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate being here and appreciate you asking me very much. Thank you.
As I was going to ask you about